Okay, I'm trying to do some tutorial videos here. Everybody always asks me what I do to my vehicles. I'll basically do about the same thing, starting underneath. On this one, this is a Reconnaissance Panzer 38T. It's originally a Major Midnight model, which I'm repainting. I'll put some work in progress images once I get it done. So far I took out some parts from the top, turned the vehicle upside down, which is usually how I start. I added some of my swamp mix, which is a mix of ballast, dirt, static grass, white glue, to give the underside some texture. On this one, I'm thinking of giving some texture to the wheels also, to get like a very dusty look. Not sure if I'm gonna do that. I've done that only once. I usually just texture the surroundings of the wheels, but leave the wheels alone. I did texture the wheels in an Africa Core Panzer II I finished recently. So here I use flat earth for the basic color, and then I added the shading. I went ahead and shaded some of the wheels also. Let me give a photo around. For the shading, I use 50-50. All the colors that I'm giving are Tamilla, or however you pronounce that in English. The shading is about 50% black and 50% red brown, maybe a little bit more red brown than black. It's a very dramatic dark color, but it gets blended in and it doesn't look as dramatic afterwards. There's areas here of the vehicle that will never be visible, but I use them to test out techniques sometimes. But these areas in tight on the front and the back do sometimes sneak in when you're taking low angles photographs, so I always like to have it texture and finished. Here, flat earth was the basic, then added the shading. That shading gives you half tones all over the place, so it looks like I've used several colors. I've just used those two. Then the first pass through on dry brushing, and I just put 3 or 4 pieces of paper towel here. I'm using here a cheap Blick Scholastic Wonder White brush, size number 20. My first mix to go over would be 50% buff and 50% flat earth, which was the color I used underneath. Here it doesn't, this is not gonna show much because it's in the underside of the vehicle, but again, in these closer areas, so quite a bit of paint on the brush, just and then any area of the vehicle will pick up the lighter color. I will later go on over the edges with pure buff with less paint. The concept of dry brushing, everybody knows. It's as you lighten the color, you lighten the pressure. Always trying to make sure not to overdo it, because you end up with like a bleached effect. If you keep making the color lighter and lighter and lighter, it eventually looks like your vehicle went through a swamp of Clorox, and that's not what you want. But hopefully, I don't know if it'll pick up in the video. I never tried to do a video before, but as you go over the rivets and any of the edges, it just brings out the detail. These Tamiya colors are supposed to be acrylics. I'm not sure if they are. When I dilute them with denatured alcohol, which comes in huge tins, gallon tins. And this stuff says here it's also used marine stove fuel. So when I started using it, didn't say that, but apparently it's the same product. Never use water to dilute it, and I clean it with the same denatured alcohol. But what I'm getting at is that supposedly acrylics are impossible to dry brush because they dry very quickly. These dry quickly, but it gives you enough time to get some of the effects. Again, what you want is to get some of the texture and the details from the vehicle to pop out. I don't know if you see that there. It's a testing. Again, this still looks a little bit too dramatic, but I then dry brush only with buff. Again, this is buff and flat earth, about 50-50 mix. And down here, I don't have to be too careful because this area will never show, but I just want to, just to illustrate the effect, how it brings out the texture that was in the swamp mix and any rivets. Okay, I'm gonna stop it now. I don't want to make this too long.